Welcome to Skweeel episode 9. I thought I was finished with episode 8, but if you remember, I ran into a snag towards the end. So this is what I would like to investigate tonight. So I'm once again at SAE Barn Bay's wonderful Duality SE studio, and I can never thank them enough for all their support. So yes, what happened in episode 8 is after I programmed a very simple 4-note arpeggio, 2 little percussive sounds, and 2 channels alternating to create the melody of my little orchestral maneuvers in the dark Enola Gay remake, the timing was absolutely horrendous. So I've had a bit of a think as to what could be the cause of this, and I came up with 3 hypotheses which I would like to test tonight. Hypothesis number 1 is that the very strong voltages happening in each channel because of the Larsen effects are somehow interfering with the commands, the other control voltages, which mute, unmute, or move the faders, etc. So the way I'm going to test that is simply to program to load exactly the same sequence that I was using for episode 8, but instead of having Larsen effect in the channels, using the signal generator in Pro Tools to produce similar sounds. So that would rule out any problem due to high voltages. Hypothesis number 2. Apparently Pro Tools has this problem with its timing when it sends MIDI information to external devices such as the Duality. So this I would need to test by simply programming exactly the same sequence in, say, Logic or Ableton Live. And if the timing persists, then it's not necessarily Pro Tools' fault, but a more global timing issue due to the protocol used between the DAW and the console, between the plugin, basically, and the console. Hypothesis number 3, so if these 2 other things fail, maybe the timing issue is due to this fact that the protocol seems to use timecode, and therefore I want to test if when I use a tempo which happens to place the notes nicely on the subdivisions of the second, which is frames in timecode. So in EBU, it's every 40 milliseconds. There are 25 frames per second. That's my hypothesis 3, is if I pick a tempo that coincides nicely with timecode frames, then hopefully that will eliminate the timing issues. There you go, that's what I'm testing tonight. Let's get right to it. So I've programmed the exact same sequence. In fact, I opened the previous session and I got rid of all the Larsen effects from the patch bay, and using the built-in signal generator on Pro Tools, I am passing through the channels, sine wave, sine wave, sine wave, sine wave, and as you can see on the meters, very conservative levels, nothing that should cause any problem. And then for the little ping pong percussion, I'm using just pink noise. And I didn't even bother programming the melody for the song because, as you're about to hear, it's missing half of the little percussive sounds there. So yeah, I think you would agree with me that it's no need to investigate this hypothesis further. There are exactly the same timing issues. My tempo is 143.1, the same as in episode 8. And same timing issues, despite the fact that I no longer have these outrageous voltages going through the channels. So that was definitely not the issue. I thought I'd move directly to hypothesis 3, since I'm still in Pro Tools. Hypothesis 3 being that if I use a tempo that is timecode friendly, where the subdivisions, the bars, the beats, the subbeats, 8th notes, 16th notes happen to fall on the edge of every single frame, then normally that supposed bug of Pro Tools having problems to communicate by MIDI HUI protocol from Mackie with the console should go away, should no longer be a problem. So when you do a bit of math, you end up with a tempo of either 187.5, and if I switch to timecode, which I will show you in a close-up, then we can see that all of my mute, unmute commands happen to nicely fall on each frame. And it sounds like this. Oops. I don't think it's too much to ask of a software in 2018, in the 21st century, to be able to mute and unmute within a one frame time interval, 40 milliseconds. That's definitely within the scope of what modern electronics can do. Apparently, that doesn't work. So what if we were to half that tempo? That takes us to a tempo of 93.75. And again, if we inspect, which I will show you in close-ups once I edit the episode, we again have notes that fall very precisely on our timecode subdivisions, and it sounds like this. So all the notes pass. It'd be a shame if they didn't. But the timing is still not what you would expect from devices which can be sample accurate. So that too is not going to happen. If I cannot work with very quick successions of notes like this, I intended to use such rapid fire little snippets of sound in my composition. That doesn't work. The timing is way off and some of the notes end up missing. So I refuse to program music which is lethargic. And still there, I don't know about you, but I remember early sequencers in control voltage gate had better timing than this. So hypothesis number 3, I'm ruling out as well. I think the problem is beyond this whole thing about data being sent, synchronized with timecode frames, etc. It's got to be something else. So that leaves us with hypothesis, hard to say, especially at 2 a.m. Number 2, which is that maybe it's just Pro Tools having problems and the same plugin, the Delta Control plugin working from another DAW wouldn't have this issue. Well, sadly, there is going to be an episode 10 because I just did a bit of investigation. The Delta Control plugin is not available for Logic X for reasons which, again, I already forgot. I don't want to clutter my brain with that. And sadly, Ableton Live is also available on this computer, and Ableton Live is able to normally use the VST instance of the plugin, but there's a problem. It's 2 a.m., no one's there anymore, and when I try to launch Ableton Live, it tells me, failed to connect to license server, please contact your administrator, Live will now close. Okay, thank you, Live, bye-bye. So I'm not being lucky. I thought audio engineering was all about having fun with consoles, etc., but it seems that audio engineering now is installing drivers, licenses, etc., the part that I absolutely hate. So yes, there shall be an episode 10. I cannot use Logic as my other DAW to try and rule out the fact that it's a Pro Tools issue. And I cannot load Ableton Live tonight because the license server is down. So I have to come back and try that. And only then will I be able to hopefully get timing issues solved with Ableton Live. And that means that I'll have to learn a bit more about that software and compose with it. If that fails as well, then that's an issue. I think, like I concluded at the end of episode 8, it means that I'll have to just work a composition which has much fewer rhythmical elements in it, which is not a good thing, because I planned as part of the research to demonstrate that it was feasible to achieve very precise rhythmical elements. Anywho, trying to keep my spirits up. I will catch you later for episode 10 then. Bye-bye.